All right. Uh, mm, mm, mm. Let's see. Mhm, mhm. All right, Shalom, fam. Shalom, proud as well. Um, Hope y'all are ready for a great word. I've been getting fed, had a lot of to go place, a lot of to go place. I'm gonna wait a few minutes, well, no, a few seconds, just to make sure everything's still going accordingly. Make sure everything's set up right. Shalom, 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 Sister Sherry. Pray all is well. All right, let's see. One. All right, that should be the last time I move. That should be the last time. All right, shalom, 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 Sister Carla, shalom. Uh-oh, Brother Charles, double triple OG, Brother Charles, how's it going, big bro? How's it going? Big Bruda. Pray all is well. Time doing this. Let's see if well, yeah, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it like that. Well, we're coming out of Numbers chapter 11. If y'all want to go ahead and flip there. Numbers chapter 11. We're going to read verse 1 through 3. Wait a few more seconds. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. All right. All right. Looks like everybody can hear me pretty well. That's great. That's great. Start out with some prayer. All right. May the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. You are our strength and our redeemer. And these things I pray. Amen. All right. Shalom, fam. Shalom. Pray all is well. So I know we've been getting some great to go places. I was saying earlier, great to go place. The ministers, they've been on point all week, and it's been hitting around exactly what I'm gonna talk about tonight, right? And it starts out with the title of "Don't File a Complaint, File a Petition." Right? Don't file a complaint, file a petition. And how Minister Shantae, right? She started out talking about the point of change and repentance, like reverting back to peculiar, right? And those coordinates, how we should remember those coordinates and remember that we don't have to go back to that spot because that's going to kind of throw us off as we're walking down this path of life, right? And how Minister Ananias came right behind that, talking about the loving kindness and the judgment of Yahweh and how that is true and how who that is Yah as and that is who Yah is, right? And then Minister Dr. Tamar coming in with the warrior versus the worshiper, remembering that a cup is a cup, even if it's made into a plate, it is still a cup, right? And then Minister Tamara coming on this rising, speaking on how basically how Yah will walk you, he won't walk you to what he won't walk you through, right? He'll walk you to something, but guarantee you're going to be able to walk through it, right? Guarantee it's going to be temporary, right? And I'm going to come right behind all that with the don't file a complaint, file a petition, right? We'll come from Numbers chapter 11. We're going to read verses 1 through 3, and bear with me because your brother is hard headed and believes he go outside the day cab without a coat and it'd be cold outside. So I might have a little clear in the throat here and there, but we're gonna get through it. Praise Yah, praise Yah. Get a little water in here. So we're gonna start it with Numbers chapter 11, read verse 1 through 3. That's where we're gonna settle in at right there. All right. And it reads, well, before we do that, right, we're gonna break down the word complaint, right? Don't file a complaint, file a petition. And shalom, shalom, Minister Lysifa. Let's see, Sister Tia, Arthur, Sister Deborah, everybody coming in. Pray all is well, pray all is well. So we'll start with this word complain, right? We break down that word complain. It's COM, right? PLAIN, right? Complain, right? And that prefix of calm means together with the force of intent or direction, right? And that last part, plain. So when we complain, right, we're instantly going with a force of intent or direction to be plain, to be worldly, because we are peculiar. We're going back to a state that we don't have to be. And that will instantly anger Yahweh, as we're about to read in here. So when we are complaining, right, remember that that never really fixed anything, right? No matter where you go in here, that never really fixed anything, right? So we're going to start with verse 1 and we'll get warmed up as I get comfortable. All right. And it says, and when the people complained, it displeased Yahweh, and Yahweh heard it, and his anger was kindled. And the fire of Yahweh burnt among them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto Yahweh, the fire was quenched. He called the name of the place Taberah or Taberache, because the fire of Yahweh burnt among them. Right? So we go back to verse 11, right? And we start with that first half. And shalom, shalom, Minister Smail Ray. We're going to start with that first half, right? And it says, and when the people complained, it displeased Yahweh, and Yahweh heard it, and his anger was kindled. So when they decide to become plain, when they decide to go back to being with that plain thinking, it's long, Brother Dwayne, how's it going? When they went back to that plain thinking, it angered Yahweh because he's like, yo, I made you peculiar. You know, it's like, he's like, man, I don't know why you're acting like this. Like, I made you a certain way. Why are you going back to the way that you were before? Right. And even when you see that word complain in the first part of verse 11, that ed on the end literally means used to form the past sense, the past tense, the past of what they used to be, coming out of Kemet, right? How what they came out of, you're going right back to in an instant. And he's like, wait, why are you forgetting that you're a peculiar people, right? Right. So yeah, as soon as you complain, you drop your peculiarity because why are you complaining? When has that ever worked out, right? And the first part of the verse reflects the talks about the people, right? It says, when the people, when the nation of Israel complained, when the nation of Israel went back to being plain, it displeased Yahweh, and Yahweh heard it, and his anger was kindled. We're gonna stop right there. And one thing I learned about kindling, right? Coming out of Feast of Tabernacles, brother Torino, he taught me a lot about kindling, right? And that could be pine cones, pine needles, lighter fluid, whatever it is, but that would instantly increase the fire, right? So as soon as they went back to being plain and increased the fire, it kindled the fire. And that fire is what is foreshadowed a little bit before that as well. So we'll go back to chapter we'll go back to chapter 9, Numbers chapter 9, verses 15 and 16. Now, if you remember, Pastor Kofi spoke on a message about the pillar of fire, right? The cloud, wait, hold on. The cloud covered, yeah, talking about the cloud by day and the fire by night, right? The cloud of fire by night, right? So we read chapter 9, we're going to read verse 15 and 16. And it says, Shalom, Minister Tamara. And shalom, oh, yeah, shalom, brother. Shalom, brother. How's it going? I'm getting used to this. It's the first time. We're going to get these nerves out of here. But Numbers chapter 9, verses 15 and 16. And it says, on the day that the tabernacle was reared up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, right? Namely, the tent of testimony, right? And tent of testimony, we know that is the point of where a test has happened, right? And at even there was upon the tabernacle, as it were, the appearance of fire until the morning, until the rising. So it was always and always. The cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night. So that same fire was foreshadowed, right? Now that fire could be either judgment or it can be um direction. Either way is direction, right? So them knowing that while they're in the tabernacle, right? While they're in the tabernacle, they know that that fire is for direction. That fire is not intended for them. But as soon as they come out of that tabernacle and step into the flesh, that is when that fire is intended for them. All right. So we can also think about that fire in many other stories. So remember that story in Jasher, Yashar chapter 12, when they talked about Abraham, and how he went against his father, went against Nimrod, went against the idols and everything, and he was cast into the fire, right? And in that fire, Abram, we just would say Abraham, he was not affected because he knew that fire was not for him. He knew that he was in tabernacle. He knew that he was had his eye on Yah. He knew that everything was going accordingly, and he knew that it was not going to touch him. His brother, on the other hand, Haran, right? He went into the fire. He confessed as well that he believed in the Most High. But for an instant, for one moment, when he complained, when he went back to a plain thinking, right, in his mind or verbally, who knows? I'm not going to say that it was verbally or in his mind, whichever the case is. But at one moment, he went back to plain thinking. At one moment, he went outside of the tabernacle, and that is when the fire consumed the uttermost, right? So when let's see. So when yeah, so the fire um when you're in a tabernacle, you know that it's there, but you don't worry because you know you're in your purpose and you know that you're in your purpose on purpose. But as soon as you come outside of the tabernacle, as soon as you step into the flesh, that's when you are consumed. Complaint brings fire, and you speak that into existence literally. So when that fire comes about, it's because you put yourself into that situation. It's because for that moment you forgot that you were peculiar. It was for that moment that you were outside of the calling of what Yah has you to be. And we want to be mindful of that. Just a reminder of that as well. Right. So also speaking about the flesh, when we step outside of the tabernacle and we look through that fleshly eye, we can also look at the case where was it? It was Aaron and Miriam as well, right? And with Aaron and Miriam and how they went against Moses, right? They went against Moses and how matter of fact, let's go. Let's read that. Let's read it. It's not far from there. Yeah, chapter 12. We'll go to Numbers chapter 12, and we're gonna read verse 6, and we'll go down to when Yahweh's anger was kindled again, right? And we're gonna start at verse 6, Numbers chapter 12, verse 6. And he said, "Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, Yahweh, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all my house. With him I will speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. And the similitude of Yahweh shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against them, and he departed." Right? So instantly in that moment, yet again, they forgot that what they stepped outside of the tabernacle and looked through the eye of the flesh. And you can also see how Miriam's flesh was literally affected by that, right? And oh, Shalom, Sister Pierce. Yeah, she became a leopard. Exactly, exactly. So you can see how when you step outside of the fire, I mean, step outside the tabernacle, instantly you kindle the fire, right? So once again, don't file a complaint, file a petition. Amen. Amen. All right. So let's go back. Let's go back and start breaking down Numbers chapter 11. Go back to verse 1. We'll go back through it again. And it says, "And when the people, and when when Yahashrael complained, when they went back to being plain, it displeased Yahweh. Yahweh's looking like, hey, what are you doing? You know, I made you peculiar. I brought you out of this. And now you're literally going back to the same thinking I took you out of. So that fire is going to hit that foreshadowed fire when it was before, when you were in direction, when you were in the tabernacle and you saw the fire and you weren't afraid of it because you knew the intent of it. It was for direction. But as soon as you stepped outside of that and you started thinking outside that, went to the fleshly thinking. Now the fire is affecting you. Now the fire is hot, hot, right? Right. So remember that. And when the people complained, when they went back to plain thinking, it displeased Yahweh, and Yahweh heard it, and his anger was kindled. And the fire of Yahweh burnt among them, and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. It just takes one complaint to risk the uttermost of his people, right? It takes one outside thought, one look at them. What do they think they're doing? They should be acting like this, like especially on this evening, like that. That's the reason why it's kind of hard for me to keep going too, because I hear a lot outside of what's going on this evening. But I'm not going to file a complaint. I'm gonna file a petition. I'm not going to worry about the action more so, but I'm gonna go towards the cause of that spiritual warfare, right? Because the action, it happened, but that spiritual warfare is what we really need to go at, right? Like Minister Dr. Tamar was talking about, she was going to be fasting and praying because we're going into a season where it's going to be a lot of wickedness going on. We're going into a part where we're going to have to be very strong. We're going to have to be a very strong example for the people out here, and we have to show them that there is a different way, but we can't be like them with that thought, right? Stick your nose up in the air in a way, right? Yeah, open yourself to be, yeah, open up yourself, right? But you got to be able to receive what Yah has for you in that moment. And if you're in the plain thinking, you're not gonna be able to hear what Yahweh has for you to do in that certain situation. I'm surrounded by a lot of people that are in this and doing this and excited about this, but they know me not to really bother me with that, right? Because I know what it is. They know what it is, but yet they're going to do it. But yet I know that it's a spirit on them that has them doing that. You get what I'm saying? Um, and there's a method to the fire, right? There's a method to quenching the fire, much like Moses did, much like Moses knew as well, right? So I don't know if many are familiar with the it's the pass method with the fire, right? It's pull, aim, what is it, spray and sweep or sweep and spray, right? So you got a fire extinguisher and you see the flame. But if you aim the fire extinguisher at the top of the flame, you're just making it worse. You're not making any progress. You're focusing on the wrong point. But when you aim it at the bottom, right, that's when you start affecting the fire. When you start aiming it at the source, that's when you start affecting the fire. Not really going for the action of the fire, not really going for what is burning, but you're going for the cause of it, right? There's many different classes of fire extinguishers that you have to get depending on the cause of it, right? So exactly, aim at the base. Thank you, Mr. Lash, for there, aim at the base. So you're not going for really what's it's you see what it's doing, you see what it is, but we don't look through that fleshy eye. We remain in tabernacle, so the fire does not affect us. We know the fire, we know the purpose of the fire, but we know it's not for us. We aim for the base of it, right? So when you going back to that word complain, right? When people complain and get affected by that fire, right? Yeah, get to the root. Our mom, Minister Tam, get to the root. So when people are complaining and get it and filing that complaint more so, they're going to a worldly position and they're literally taking themselves out of being peculiar and turning themselves into a plaintiff. Right? Yeah, exactly. See where I'm going with this, right? Right. And you're taking yourself out of being peculiar and turning yourself into a plaintiff, right? You're taking yourself out of one court and literally putting yourself into something foreign that you're not supposed to be in. You go from filing a complaint instead of filing a petition, right? So now let's break down let's break down that word plaintiff, right? On. Yeah, so a complaint is instantly outside of righteous law, right? A complaint is instantly outside of what you're supposed to be doing. It's literally something that is unacceptable. Literally, if you look up the definition of complaint, is literally something that is unacceptable. We are peculiar people. There are woes that are already written to happen. There are woes that are already there for that purpose. It's not necessary for us to cast a woe when it's already written for it to happen. Our purpose is to to intercede when necessary, right? When necessary, spare at the base. Exactly. Yep. And it's when necessary, but it's it's still something that's yeah, you got to step in when necessary. Sorry, but you got to know when to do and how to do based off your position that you are in the court, right? So when you go into that worldly court, you're instantly outside of righteous law. It's literally something that's unacceptable. It's a totally different courtroom. Therefore, it is a new title, right? Therefore, you turn it to the plaintiff, right? See where I'm going with this? You turn into a plaintiff, and the plaintiff is a party who brings upon themselves legal and lawful action. It is ordained, right? It is written. Let's talk about yeah, we go over to Isaiah chapter 5, verses 20 through 24. We're gonna go to those woes that are already written, and it shows that we do not have to be the ones, and we are not the ones that cast those woes out, because when we start doing that, we are then instantly in a worldly position, instantly in a plain position. So we're gonna go to Isaiah chapter 5, verses 20 through 24. All right, here we go. Isaiah chapter 5, verses 20 through 24. Shalom, shalom, Minister Shante. Shalom, shalom. So Isaiah chapter 5, read verses 20 through 24. And it says, woe unto them that call evil to Ba, that call evil righteous, and righteous evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, right? And men of strength to mingle strong drink, the complete opposite, which justify the wicked for reward and take away the righteous of the right, take away the righteousness of the righteous from him, right? Therefore, as the fire devoureth the stubble, and the flame consumeth the chaff, so their roots shall be as rottenness, and their blossoms shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the law of Yahweh of hosts, and despised the word of the Holy One of Yasrael, of Israel, of Yashta'al, side of law. Instantly. Therefore, that fire comes again. That fire is consistent. That fire is foreshadowed. It only affects you when you let yourself be affected by it. On. And pour up a little more water, right? It was really great. I know it's taking me a while to get around to it, but getting these jitters out, and all that, oh, what you've been through. But this is great. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. It's getting great now. All right. So therefore, knowing that it's not up to you to really say upon them, right? It's not really up to you to be the one to say that this is going to happen, because it's already written. It doesn't need your push to it. You're more so stepping in to be the one that shows there is another way. To be the one that says, hey, again, I know you're at this point in the walk. Over there's gonna be a stone, over there's gonna be a stick, over there's gonna be a wall. When you hit that hill, go down at an angle so that way you don't fall forward. That is more so what we're called to do. That's not necessary for us because it is already written. So if it's already written, it's going to happen either way, whether we complain about it or not. It's going to happen either way. But what we do and how we act, that's what we bring upon ourselves. I'm on. So therefore, why are you complaining if it is already written? And what would happen without your complaint? The same thing anyway, right? So do not file a complaint, file a petition. Do not complain, do not be complained, but remain peculiar and file a petition, file a prayer. We know what a petition is, right? A prayer, a righteous prayer. It is always a righteous prayer that quenches it. Back with Aaron and Miriam, it was a righteous prayer of Moses yet again, called to be a light to the way. Exactly, called to be a light to the way, that they may be led to the water as well, to be baptized. Right, right. I love that. I love that. Thank you, Minister Shante. Um, and it's right back with Aaron and Miriam, right, and how they went to Moses for a righteous prayer, because Moses was in position as he was mouth to mouth with the Most High to give that righteous prayer, because they of that, right? to Abraham and Haran, as they were in the fire in Yasher chapter 12, and how Abram was fine, right? A righteous prayer, exactly. Abram was fine, but Haran, even though he confessed, he's like, yeah, yeah, it's true. But he got in that fire and looked at that fire, and for a split instant, he thought that maybe for that split instant, he might have thought, oh, it's hot. For that split instant, and that's all it takes. It takes one little complaint to go to the uttermost, right? To consume the uttermost. So what else do you file? You file a petition. You file a prayer, right? And a petition is a formal written request, typically signed by many of the people, right? Many of a particular nation, appealing to an authority to a particular case or cause. Again, not the action, but the case or the cause, right? If you go complaint for complaint, it is literally a never-ending circle. Somebody has to be the one to say, okay, we're gonna give a prayer instead of a complaint, right? We're going through what we go through, but we know that it is ordained because Yahweh won't walk us to what he will walk us through. So I'm not gonna complain that I'm here, but what I am gonna do is pray that I see what I'm supposed to see while I'm going through this. Story time. So Minister Stephen is can be hard headed, right? And the one thing I wanted to do when you see how I started that. The one thing I wanted to do when I got the word and got um got the proper interpretation of it, right? The one thing I wanted to do was go out here and reach as many people as I wanted to, as I could, right? And yeah, as I wanted to as well, because I was particular who I went at. But righteous intent, I went out to whoever I could, right? And I prayed. I was like, y'all just let me see what it is I need to see to do this. He's like, you already have what you need to do, right? You already have what you need in order to accomplish what it is. So me being hard headed, I come from a certain lifestyle. Obviously, I look like what I've been through. I'm not ashamed of it, but I come from a certain lifestyle. And that certain lifestyle, that person had a certain name, null and void. But I took that box. I said, okay, thanks, yeah. I'm gonna run out here. I got that box that I might need this guy while I'm out here. I stuck it right here. And like now that I know that I've been through that, y'all was probably like, what is this knucklehead doing? I just told him that's not what I meant. But all right, you got free will. You got free will. And I went out here and started doing what I did and righteous intent. But I ended up stumbling. I ended up getting taking a miss. I missed the mark and ended up falling. You know, I didn't go to anything crazy, anything like that, but I was going in a direction I wasn't meant to go in. And when I was in the fire, I knew that I'll be okay, but I got burned because I was not looking in the right direction. And but praise God that He's a gracious Father, and He knows that I could be hard headed sometimes, and welcome me back in, and I found my way right back into family. Right, a righteous complaint is certainly allowed. Uh, yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. But a righteous complaint really ends up as a prayer, but we're not gonna do that. Um, but um, yeah, so I came back into it and got back on track, and I praise God and I thank Him for that. Right, and by me going through all that, I realized that it's important to look in the right direction or else, yes, refined. Thank you. Yep. And I fine tuned and got back into it and refined as fire. Oh, I love that. Yes, refined as fire. That is righteous. um, uh, um, and I praise God for that because I searched for peace, and peace comes from a prayer every single time. That's basically the point I was getting to. Every single time, peace comes from a prayer, right? When we pray for the cause and not really the action, right? That like turning the other cheek, right? Sorry, I was thinking about that too much. But turn the other cheek, right? When you turn the other cheek, you're like, boom, all right, you hit me. But let's figure out, just like Pastor Kobe was saying before, let's figure out why you hit me. All right. I'm not really gonna pray like I get hit, boom. Oh, I pray you don't hit me again. I can't be realistic, right? I'm probably gonna get hit again. But let's sit down, figure out why you hit me, so that way you won't hit me again. No, that way we find out whatever this is to get this up off of here, right? I'm not going to complain that you hit me. I'm not going to go back to a plain thinking point that you hit me. I'm not going to go back to Kemet, right? But I'm gonna figure out what it is so that way we can keep going forward, right? Exactly. You can complain, but Yah responds to your petition. Aman. Aman. Yeah, that's it. But still love you, whoever that was. It's still all well. But um, anywho, but yeah, don't want to go back to Kim and don't want to. We got brought out of that. And it, if and then honestly too on that point as well, you can't really say that a complaint won't happen again. Please don't think I'm trying to say that because honestly, just like Minister Tam was talking about earlier today, like I get in trouble sometimes. I'm like, man, what is this dude doing? And just like that. But then I could also say, all right, let me digress. That was too much, and then you keep going from there, right? And then, um, yeah, you keep going from there. But when you go down, when you do have a complaint or whatever like that, just like yeah, it's going to happen again. Basically, what I'm saying, it's going to happen again. Not going to say it's not going to happen again. If you look Numbers chapter 11, you go right after that, they start complaining about what they wanted to eat. They start complaining about the manna, everything like that. They wanted the flesh they had in Kemet. They wanted that fleshly thing, and as soon as they wanted that fleshly thing, we saw what happens again. So it's possibility that it happens again. Not saying it's never going to happen again. Not saying it's the one all be all. That's never that. But um, for peace, a peace that surpasses all understanding. Right. Then we go to John 14 verse 27. Go to John chapter 14 verse 27. Am I? Uh, John chapter 14 verse 27 because this is promised to us. Amen. So John chapter 14, verse 27, it says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. No matter what it is going on in the world, no matter what affects you, you're gonna get scraped up, you're gonna get a bruise, you're gonna get, beaten up a little bit, but peace is gonna be there at the end. Peace is guaranteed for us, right? Peace is guaranteed as long as we stay in a peculiar mind frame, as long as we remain peculiar, as long as we don't go back to that plain thinking, as long as we don't go back and forth and realize that there's a certain understanding, a certain context where we're trying to get to, but we're all of the same family, and but at the end of it, there is peace. Amen. And when we talk about the plain thing, right? The thing about that is it only really needs to be made plain once, right? Because after that, you should be able to see it through everything. Now, the context I'm coming from with that, it reminded me of the song of like a vision, make it plain. That they may walk and not faint, right? For if Yahweh said it, you could count on it because he would do just what he said. So when we make it plain, right? Imagine somebody going down the same path you are. We're making it so that when that person gets to the point, they can read exactly what it was and see exactly what it was that you've been through. Take that and keep going, right? It's not really for, it does happen, but it's not really for you to come back to that same point over and over and over because you're not going to keep going where you need to go, right? It's going to be made plain, but it only really needs to be plain once, right? We don't want the fire, but for direction in dark times, the fire is necessary. In those dark times, it is possible for that fire to be for different purposes. Um, yes, listen and think logically. Yes. Um, mm. Now I see. But anyway, yeah, I'm not even gonna pay attention to that anymore. But um, so yeah, so when it comes to it being plain, and it really only needs to be plain one me, it really only needs to be made plain once, right? But and after that, you should be able to see it through anything. Thank you. So after that, you should be able to see it through anything. It only really needs to be made plain once. Just like when the Messiah laid down his life was not taken. The Messiah laid down his life. It was made plain in front of people once. But because of that, through all, we were all able to see what it was that was necessary to happen as it was written, right? Yeah, don't take your eye off the destination. Exactly. Exactly. If you are living in unrighteousness, your prayers, petitions, complaints go no higher than the ceiling. Exactly, exactly. You got to stay in righteous, stay in peculiarity, because that way the anger is not kindled of Yahweh, right? But long story short, do not file a complaint, file a petition. Now we're going to read verse 2 and 3, and we're going to close out after that. We'll go back to Numbers chapter 11, read verse 2 and 3. We're going to close out after that. Right. So go back to Numbers chapter 11, read verse 2 and 3. And the people cried unto Moses. And when Moses prayed unto Yahweh, the fire was quenched. When the righteous one out of the right family, right, that spoke mouth to mouth of the Most High, once he said a prayer to Yahweh, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah or Taberacheh, because the fire of Yahweh burnt among them, right? And at that point, right? I like that too, because it says, and he called the name of that place Taberacheh, because the fire of Yahweh burnt among them. Because at that point, at that mark, right? Moses being the leader, being our head, being the one that spoke mouth to mouth with the Most High, right? He was able to know what was necessary to be prayed in that moment, right? That righteous breath, that righteous prayer. So at that point, Moses, that was our head, that came out of the right family, right? Prayed a prayer, a righteous petition to Yahweh. And in that moment, when he did that, that was what was needed to quench the fire. All in all, every time you get to that point and you say you do complain, it is okay. Come back with that righteous prayer, and that fire will be quenched. This is the everyday walk, working on the flesh daily, um, working on your work daily. Um, like even now, they showed me a lot what I need to work on, and what about the distractions and things like that. And it's something that you just got to jump into and see sometimes, right? But the fire didn't burn. It was just learning lesson. On. Stay peculiar. Exactly, exactly. But that's all I really have. Um, I pray that was edifying. Even though it started out kind of jumpy. It's first time doing this live. Definitely a different or definitely a different way than doing videos. But it was still great. Still enjoyed it. Um, and I pray that you remember to not file a complaint, but file a petition. I pray that you remember that even though a cup is smashed up, made it to a plate, it is still a cup. It's just still peculiar. We just gotta get back to that peculiar thinking. I'm on. I'm on. Um, let us pray. Yeah, let us pray. Break out of that, right? Um, Yahweh, thank you that through it all, your message was still received. Um, and as we're in this season to coming out of a great season and going into and looking at another different season, but know that it is still you through it all. Um, I pray that we do remember to file a petition, that we do remember to remain peculiar, that we do remember no matter what, no matter who tries to come against you and shake you up a little bit, throw you off your pivot, that we do remember that it is a purpose. We do remember that it is ordained. We do remember that it is written. And we do remember that it will be okay. That you will walk us to and you will walk us through, no matter what it is. I pray that love is still extended. I pray that love is still seen and shown through all, though it may ruffle us up a little bit in that moment, but it may be smoothed out in peace at the end because peace is guaranteed to us as long as we reign in your walk in your way. I pray that we do what we have to do so that way your anger is not kindled against us. And I pray that everything is with righteous intent. I'm on and I'm on. But thanks, fam. That's all I have. Um, Pastor Kofi be back on in the rising, I believe. I believe. I could be wrong. Definitely not always right. But uh let's see what community day is tomorrow, right? Right, yep, community day. Um, File a petition, not a complaint. That's a great work for community day. um, but until the rising, I'm gonna go get my rest. Been going, woke up this rising and saw Minister Tamara going. I was like, I just can't go back to sleep. I'm not going back to sleep. I'm gonna stay up. But I'm gonna get my rest, get some eats, get my rest. But I pray all is well. Uh, until next time, fam. That's really all I have. Shalom. Peace.